Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. Today, we'll be talking about TagoIO and its basics, right? For those who don't know, I am Marcelo, Tago's IO content editor, and with me today, I have Thiago, our CSM, right? So, before we start, please feel free to present yourself on our chat. And if you have any question, we have just opened our Q&A that is located above the chat, right? So you guys can ask your questions there. At the end of the presentation, we will have a moment to answer them all. And a quick reminder, we are constantly having webinars. So if you don't want to miss them, please visit our events page. There you can see our schedule. Right, so without further ado, let's start. First, a little bit about TagoIO. TagoIO is an end-to-end IoT platform that transforms the way business creates value from connected products and user interactions. Right? We created this platform and made it available for everyone so they can build plug-and-play solutions. We have more than 10,000 accounts and we are at more than 100 countries. We have hundreds of certified devices that are ready to go, and you can also add your own device, right? However, we wouldn't get here without the support of our partners. We have more than 85 official partners which have been helping us and we have been also helping them. Between the partners we have system integrators, hardware developers, and developers. Now we will continue with Thiago. So please, Thiago.
Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing fine. Some of you already know me from demo or onboarding, or you're already a customer of mine. Either way, welcome everyone. Today we're going to talk 101 in regards to the TagoIO IoT platform and hopes to understanding the concepts a little bit of the basics, all the way through how do I get to a complete application by taking these little steps. All right. So first of all, let's understand how what is the high level interaction of our IoT ecosystem. So I have here our cloud layer, our edge layer, and our IoT devices. So we have our hardware like cameras or drones or our cars or our watch, any devices that we have out there, humidity, temperature, compressing, leak sensors, they all send information to up. So we say to the cloud. It sometimes it goes through an edge, like for example, a gateway, and then a network server, eventually to our cloud network. Here we can see in detail what is that interaction like when we're understanding how TagoIO performs. So here we have our edge end device sending information to our gateway and finally to our networks. As you can see here, some of our partners are already listed as a network provider. There are different ways that you can connect to Tago. You can connect through LoRa, MQTT, HTTPS, TCP/IP, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. So you can, and you're able to use that simultaneously for each device you have. You can build application with different networks, and that's a lot of power that you have to control your flow of IT devices and to in turns building your IoT application. And from TagoIO, you can also extend that to, for example, an API of your use, like a CRM or Google Drive, Telegram, weather forecast, anything that you need for your application. Here you can see, for example, a typical IoT application scenario where we have a controller. We have our IoT devices also sending information to our edge computer or gateway, and from there sending to our portal, which will display the location and status, for example, report KPIs, integrate with third-party system, send downlinks back to the device, and also generating PDF reports, alerts, registering users, and amongst plenty other capabilities that we can develop. These are some examples of IoT devices that we have on our list today, but in average, we have hundreds of connectors that are ready to go. Basically, LoRaWAN, MQTT, Sigfox, some of them already have the integration ready to go, and I'll show you a little bit about that, and I'll show you what you have to do if you don't see your device on the list. What are the next steps, right? And recently, we've been through some wonderful upgrades in terms of customization. So now you can build extremely powerful dashboards, adding transparency, customizing the colors, and literally the entire thing, since your widget all the way to your sidebar buttons, how your notifications appear, and when it's a different tab or not, when it has triggered a certain condition. So it has been pretty cool, and I'll dive a little bit around that. Um, and these are some great features that I also like to I mention in all my demos, because if you have an enterprise out there, you're definitely looking for more than just a browser application. Everybody wants to have their app on Google Store, I'm sorry, Google Play and App Store, and make that happen, right? So we have ads on; they are native on Toggle that can white label the application. You can actually use your own custom domain for emails that are sending out of the platform, and your website portal, for example, your link, the link for your portal, for example, could be app.mycompany.com, and you could focus more on branding, right? So that's great for the marketing side of every business. Just to mention, there are two separate add-ons. One of them is for white label and custom domain, which applies for your browser, right? So all the references from Toggle disappear, and you can brand your complete application based on your colors um, and the company's information. And then we have also layers of security that can be added throughout the process, which are the single sign on, which we use Samuel 2.0. It's very compatible with most services out there like Okta, Logan, Azure, Google, also Connect, and so on. So this is all this has a proper documentation. You can find it on our website. All right. So one thing that I'm really excited to talk about, even though we had webinars on the past and we have presented the first Kickstarter, which just so you guys understand, the Kickstarter is different than the templates that we have that are like singular. And for example, for a normal dashboard, the Kickstarter is actually a full operational application that can be an arm to any use case. So if you're trying to build a use case for water meter or smart building or agriculture, you can use the Kickstarter application and you can take advantage of all the resources that are there. So all the code, all the development, we already did it. It will come to you with no cost. If you have a, for example, starter plan or a scale plan, you can already import the application onto your account. I will not get into much detail in regards to the Kickstarter because we already have a webinar on it, since installing all the way to doing a couple things on it. And we're going to have another webinar soon, which we will present also the water meter Kickstarter, which is a new ramification of the our original Kickstarter. And on the future, we're also going to have the smart buildings Kickstarter. All right. Um, some other templates that we have, for example, RTLS, safety leak detector. They're also eventually we're also gonna try to make that those applications public. But for now, I think the Kickstarter is gonna be a great a great point to begin with, because we can see how the entire structure of Toggle works, and what do you need to do and where do you need to do. We have all the documentation about it. So soon enough, we're going to have more Kickstarters, and we hope to have other Kickstarters use cases as well. All right. So I guess we could go to the practical side. So I'll share my screen now and let's go through the basics. I take it that you can already see it. Um, so let's start right here. So what can we see on our admin model? I see all my modules here on the right where I can see my devices, my buckets, my files, my analysis and actions, access, users, and we'll go a little bit on each one of them. I have prepared something here that actually involves interaction between the dashboard, action, and analysis. And then I'll tie that up together with access and users so we can see how we can trigger an action through the dashboard by an information sent from my device and running an analysis based on that trigger. And I'm not going to go in details on the analysis because we already have a couple webinars out there that goes pretty deep on it, but I'll definitely show what's going on and what options you have when developing on TagoIO. All right. So, like I mentioned, today you can add devices for multiple communication methods. So, we have here our networks on the left side, which you can see we have HTTPS, we have all the LoRa networks, MQTT, um, and some others as well. And our connectors can be seen on the left side, which ties up directly to a particular network. So if I go, for example, and select LoRaWAN EveryNet, I'll see all the devices that are already compatible with EveryNet, and I can select one of them. And if I already have the one step done, which is I generated my authorization um, and set it up correctly on the EveryNet side, then it should work right away, right? There's no need to add a payload parser or decoder to it. As soon as you have the authorization issued on the TagoIO side and connected that to your webhook on EveryNet or your preferred portal, your connection should work right away. But what if you don't have a connector? What if you don't find your device on the list? So there's no need to panic. You can always go and add, for example, a custom EveryNet device, and you can add all the information here. Select what type of storage would you like for the device. I guess it's good just to go through a quick overview here in regards to what bucket types that we have. So we have the immutable for all the data that comes through, and we don't have to modify it or delete a specific registers of it or manipulate it in that way. So all the data that comes through is stored on the bucket. You can use it for analysis and all, but the only ways that you can delete the data that comes through on the mutable device is through data retention. I'm going to go through it as well. And then we have the mutable devices, which are for high performance dashboards. It's suitable for people that needs to get the payload in, but they need to edit that payload. They need to go there inside the payload and, for example, delete one, two, three variables of that payload or treat it in a different way that you'll have to modify that inside the bucket. So then the most suitable device is the mutable device. Cool. So looking after I have registered my device, how can I see where the data is coming and how can I manage that data once it comes? So right here, for example, I'm gonna turn on my live inspector on my device and I'm gonna see the emulator send me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 data. All right, so I'm gonna send my payload and I can see here that I have 5 data here added to my live inspector. But what if I didn't need all of those 5 points entering my live inspector? If you go to your payload parser, you'll see that I have ignored the variable row. So that means that instead of receiving 6 variables here, I actually received 5. And I could ignore another variable. For example, if I go to my payload parser and ignore company, oops, there we go. And I save that. The next time that my device sends data, I'm going to receive only 4 points. And if I go to my live inspector, I see that that is exactly what I have here. So I have four var four variables received here and five variables received on the bottom because I have ignored the previous one. Cool. Um, Also on the device, you can set some configuration parameters that can be used by the analysis later in case you need to send, for example, a downlink to the device and trigger a light or a particular configuration that you have on it. The payload parser can also be used as a decoder. Like I mentioned before, if you don't find your device on the list and you're like, okay, I don't have the device on the list, what do I do? So the first step is to do a decoder for it uh, before you send that to your network server. Cool. Let's jump right to dashboards now. I have separated here a couple different dashboards that I like to show you today. They're very basic because I wanted to display widget functionality and also the different widgets that we have and how they behave. So right here, for example, in this case, I have a input form widget. I'm sorry, a panic button dashboard. And in this particular panic button, since I don't have the device on me, I'm just doing a test. How would that behave if I had manual interaction from the user here on my dashboard? So for example, I have created an input form widget and I'm gonna enter my location manually. So I'm gonna type here New York and I'm gonna go visiting Times Square. Cool. And I input the time. So I can see that my logs already changed here on the left side. Great. So let's say something happened. I'm gonna trigger my panic button. So I can see that my system health widget and also my alert status has changed. And I have received a notification here on my dashboard with my latest location reported. So why did I do this? Basically, uh, yeah, so I turn it off and then everything comes back to normal. I have created a widget with a by state. So I have selected the sensor status, which is this, in this case, the sensor is sending me 0 and 1. So I have my default state, which is first button press 0, and then I have state 2, value 1. What this does, it actually is insert this data on my bucket. So this is exactly what I need to trigger my analysis, to send that notification that I just received. So I went to my actions and I created a trigger selecting a single device. I could be verifying multiple devices, but in this case, it's a singular dashboard for a single device. So I selected my device from the list, went to my variable status, and said if that variable is equal to 1, it's gonna run an analysis for me. I could have selected just so it sent me a notification. For example, instead of running an analysis, and it would say something like your device panic mode on, right, or something like that. Can also send notifications to the run user in case we're doing this on the application level, and I'll show you how that behaves as well in terms of accessing the dashboard through the admin and accessing the dashboards through Tago Run. So I could send a push, I could send an email, SMS. In this case, I'm running an analysis, and I could also do a publish for to MQTT and post data to endpoint using HTTP. And another value that I entered was also 0. So basically, what 0 does is if my device is panicking and is sending 1 every, let's say, 5 seconds, then I'm gonna have this notification over and over and over and over again. So once I press the button again, it actually sent a 0 back to me, which means that I don't need to see that notification anymore. It's gonna be unlocked. It's gonna be unlocked until I receive that status again. So basically, it's just so our device doesn't panic and send us a million notifications. In a real case scenario, the panic button would be different. In some cases, what we see is that the panic button can send its location normally every 5 minutes, but when in panic mode, it changes that uplink to a higher frequency. It really depends on the device, but in that case, it'll save you a lot of hassle to have to receive a lot of notifications. Cool. And to tie this all together, so I had an action run an analysis, and the analysis was actually this one, which I'm actually running on my computer, but I can also bring here to the TagoIO side. Basically, what it does a consult on my last location. It concatenate both variables into a message, and it use the services to display that message on a notification for me. Um, so I have set a couple environment variables here that I need, um, and also configured this analysis to run externally by using an analysis token on the end of my code. Cool. All right, so let's move to users and permissions. So this is very exciting as well because it's where you can build actually very complex permissions to certain users that need to see certain dashboards. I know, let's unpretzel that. So on my user, for example, Thiago, I have the access admin and I have dashboard panic button. Good. If I go to my John Doe, which is a guest to my dashboard, you'll see that his tag is actually only access guest. So what am I telling my access policies here? I have two of them. I have an admin policy and I have a guest policy. On my admin policy, I can see that all the run users with the tag access admin have the permission to see the dashboards of any kind, so it doesn't have to be a specific one, and devices of any kind. If I look at my gas policy, you'll see that it does exactly the opposite because this gas will have limited view to what's actually going on my application. So if I go to my policy, my permissions, this is what it looks like. So this user with access guests will will be allowed to see only the dashboard in the access mode that has the tags guest panicky button. So I have created two dashboards like the one that I showed you today. The panic button for the admin, which is the one that I placed the information, typed it, and I can press the button. And the other one that see everything else is going on, but it doesn't have any input control power. So in this case, it's only view. It's only like a view permission and to a specific dashboard. So let's see how that works. So I'm gonna log in with my credentials into my run, and we'll see how that how that appears to me. Cool. So I can see that I am the admin. I can see my admin dashboard here with all the information that I need. And I have also set on my run to show me the status page. And this shows me actually TagoIO's status page and all the services and uptime. So I can have that also not just for me, but for my guest as well as my welcome dashboard. So here you can see that everything is looking fine and I have my permission right for my admin user. Now let's test my John Doe. So I'm gonna log in as this user and we'll see what his view is. So good. So let's see. We can see that John Doe has access to the welcome page, and he also have access to the panic button dashboard. However, it's a little different than the one I showed you here. He's only visualizing my last coordinates in logs. He can see that this status is okay, and the alert is off, and it's pretty much he doesn't have any control features or input features because he's just a guest. So what I'm trying to say is that tying this up, you can actually build very complex applications and the most diverse levels. If I could add another application here, I could just simply add another user with a different tag. Then, for example, I have here, instead of having dashboard panic button, I could have dashboard leak detection. And when I go to my run to set that up under the sidebar, I could call visibility for that particular dashboard. So just to make sure, we added the tags on the user as uh, providing him with the permission, which was X admin. Then we add what company he belonged to, also in tags, which was dashboard panic button. On the device, I also had entered a tag which simulates dashboard panic button. So if I were to do all that differently for leak detection, I would just change the tags, configure my sidebar to receive different dashboards using those particular tags, and then I'll have a different application once the customer logs in. Since we are here on the run, it's great to recap some of these features. We also have a webinar specifically on Tago Run and applications, but I'll just go through the features fairly quick so we have this covered as well. So here I have the main configuration of my page. I can add a title, a favicon to my title, a subtitle, and my logo, the logo of my company. If I have the white label, I could configure this to have my custom domain. In this case here, I have, for example, myapp.run.tago.io. But if I were to have a white label, it could just be like myapp.io. Same thing for the domain here. Also on the theme, we have here series of menus that you can identify how to customize it, um, including the sidebar, navigation bar. If you hover your mouse, you'll see exactly what you're editing, and this gives a lot of power when customizing the application. We also have our sign up page, and it consists pretty much of three modules. The first one is that, okay, I have this link here. What do I do with it? How do I invite users, right? So there's three ways you can do that. Basically, anyone is you share this link, that person signs up, he can already use the platform. Confirmation required is you send the link, the person receive it, and you have to confirm their presence, their activity, let's say, on the platform. And if you leave it disabled, you'll just enter the customer's information by yourself and do it manually through your admin, and then provide the credentials to that particular customer. We also have the layers of protection that I mentioned. That is includes 2FA and the single sign-on with Samuel. 2FA can be provided for the end users, so adds an extra layer of security to them, and the SSO can be used for the developer access. We can see our multi-language dictionaries here. For you to edit your dictionaries, you can just click here and edit dictionaries, and you should be able to have different languages simultaneously on the platform. And if you want to use them simultaneously, in this case, for example, I have here I could shift to Portuguese. I insert another option for my end user to pick from. The sidebar is where I did configure all my buttons, and here I could select a couple different actions. I open dashboard through my welcome page. I can show an iframe. I could create different visibility rules here. Um, Mobile features, how to also set up Wi-Fi devices through your Tago run, and some email templates that you can also build for a situation, for example, when your user is resetting its password, or your welcome email, the two-factor authentication email. So all these can be built and configurable at the customer's demand. And we also have a couple integrations here that are ready to go, as we have Google Analytics and also Zoho Sales IQ. For you to know more about it, you could visit your TagoIO admin, and you could just hover it how to get it on both of them. You should have the information necessary to make that integration happen. Same thing with the SAML, so the single sign-on. Over here, you can provide your information to connect with your single sign-on provider, and also activate that feature. We went pretty much around the all the basics of all the modules. I think one thing to mention is that today I used the normal dashboards to do this, The scalable way would be to use blueprint dashboards in case I have more devices, because then I could make that rule abroad. And I recommend you to also watch the Dashboards webinar, which I think Matt is presenting. He puts it really clear how the blueprint dashboards work and how you can make your application scalable from there. Uh, to finalize on my side, I would like to point that from your admin, you can also access documentation, support, community. You can also access our GitHub, which contains our analysis for the Kickstarter repository and the status page to check if all the uptime is okay. And you can also subscribe to it. So if there's a downtime or something happened, if there's a maintenance, you're always informed about it. When you make that selection, I always recommend to check under your profiles, because your profiles, it's mainly sub accounts inside your account. So let's think this way: if you have 10 profiles and you have uh, 10 different applications running inside them, that means that you can have one application for each one of them. Like you could have, like I have here, the Kickstarter, I have Webinar, I have a series of other applications here, RTLS, leak detection. These could all be potential applications inside my account, and I could have a white label and custom domain plus a custom mobile app for each one of them. Cool. Um, so I guess this is all my side, Marcelo. I think I cover all the good important points that it's good for us to cover. Any questions from the Q&A?
Okay. Amazing presentation, Thiago. Thank you for it, right? It's always good to review the basics on TagoIO and see how much you can do, right? Without basically programming knowledge, right? Sadly, we can't go much further into detail. But before we jump into the questions, guys, it will be amazing to see you all at our next presentation. So please stay tuned. You can check our next webinar and events on our official website, and don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter so you always know about our following events and the IoT world. If you don't have a TagoIO account, it's pretty easy to create one. And if you need help, you can always schedule a demo with us. It's free. We already have some questions here to answer, but guys, don't be afraid to send your questions. We are here to help you. Perfect. So, to start here, let me just open the Q&A here. So, Thiago, can I trigger an analysis to my dashboard?
Yes, actually, what I did on my panic button presentation, let me share my screen again very quick, was to trigger an analysis through a dashboard. So what I did, for instance, I came here through my dashboard, and I could have triggered through my dashboard. For example, that's I guess that's the right way of putting it. Right here, I set as the default state as 0, because I took it that my device were to send that command, and I was to uh, observe that command and then trigger my analysis. I could have added, for example, a monostable, and when my device sends any information whatsoever, I could run an analysis. But since this is not the case, I need to have a bistable button. My analysis is actually called after I made this interaction. But there are a series of widgets that you can use to trigger an analysis when adding data to that specific device.
Okay, thank you. And is it possible to develop a multi-tenant application with one Tago run?
Yes. So what I did today was an example of how we could use, for example, normal dashboards to do it. I would always recommend you to use blueprint dashboards for more complex and multi-tenant applications, because they are more scalable, and the setup is actually it's actually easier afterwards. So for you, if you wish to create a multi-tenant application for your toggle run, definitely Blueprint dashboards You can also do it the way I do it. There's nothing wrong with it. It works. But if you add, for example, 5 or 10 or 15 customers, then that's lots of buttons, lots of actions, and it will be more uh, optimized if you were to use a structure like we have for the Kickstarter.
Okay, so we don't have any other question, right? I would like to remind you all that this webinar is being recorded. So if you missed any part of it, we will send you guys the link of the presentation after it, right? So you can watch it on Vimeo or YouTube. Okay, and thank you, Thiago, for the presentation, and thanks to everyone for joining us. I hope we will see you in our next webinar. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.